We first hear this in the book of Genesis. After Adam and Eve had sinned and disobeyed God and gave into the serpent's temptation, God kicks Adam and Eve out of the garden and tells them now that they have to bring about life with pain, which they did not have to face in the garden because there was no pain in the garden, because Garden of Eden was just paradise. But because of their evil, they now had to pay a price. And one of the prices that Adam and Eve had to pay was they had to bring children into the world in pain. And so Adam and Eve conceived their first two children, Cain and Abel. And Cain and Abel grew up outside the garden, and Cain became a farmer who worked the field and brought the harvest. And Abel, he was a shepherd who took care of the sheep and the lambs. And as time came by, they came to give worship to God. And Abel gave the very best sheep and lamb he had in his flock because he knew that he had to give God his very best. And Cain, well, he picked some apples and a few peaches and pears and he brought them to God, but they weren't necessarily the best. They were dented and they had bruises in them, but whatever. But they weren't his very best because he wanted to save the best for himself. And so when God looked at the donation or the sacrifice of both of these men, he accepted with great gratitude the gift of Abel. And yes, he accepted the gift of Cain. So when Cain saw that God was more pleased with Abel than he was with himself, he became jealous of Abel. And he did the most heinous thing up to that time that had ever been created. He committed heinous murder, and he kills his brother. And when God comes down and he speaks to Cain, he says to Cain, "Where is your brother?" And what does Cain say? Cain says, "Am I supposed to be my brother's keeper?" Ah. Yes, that same thing is said to us when God comes to us and he asks us, am I supposed to be my brother's keeper? Am I supposed to take care of my brother? Or do I have to take care of myself first as number one? We live in a very selfish, selfie, egotistical generation. Everybody thinks of themselves first and not necessarily anyone else. And if it is, it's always secondary to me. Because this me generation has turned everybody into such egotists that they can't see past their nose. What has technology done? Oh, it's turned everybody into these zombies, if you will. Oh, they may have 1,000 people on their Twitter account, and they may have 1,000 followers on Facebook. But the question is, do they even know who these people are? Have they ever talked to any of them, met any of them, gone out and shared a social activity with any of these people? No, they're all cyber figures. They make you feel good, but they're not real. And what God wants us to be with him is real. He doesn't care whether you have 1 follower or 1,000 followers on Twitter or whatever. All he wants is you. The real you that he created like no one else. And he's asking you to become the best you that you can be so that you can give it to others, and then, yes, you can say, I am my brother's keeper, because I do care. I do care to make sure his needs are met. I do care to make sure that if he's suffering, I'll be there for him. If not physically, at least by saying prayers for him, be in his psychological presence. I'll call somebody when they're sick, or visit them if I can in the hospital or convalescent home. I'll make a sandwich for someone in a food kitchen. If somebody just needs a hug, I'll be there. Because that's what it means to be a brother or sister. Because that's what Christ did. Christ never turned anyone down. Never. No matter how tired he was, no matter how booked up he was, he never turned anyone down who came to him. And when they came, he forgot the crowd around him, and he focused in on that single person, the person who was coming to him and asking for a cure. Whether it be was he blind or deaf or dumb, or whether he had leprosy, or no matter what it was, Jesus looked at that person as the only person on the face of the earth and loved him. Yes, he loved him. And when they were in need, he met that need because he gave to them. And we are to be the hands and the feet of Jesus today, because that's the way he's going to get to this world. The only way he's going to reach the people in this world is through you and me. Yes, we are our brother's keeper. It is up to us to make sure that our brothers are taken care of, because that's what Jesus did. And that's what Jesus is asking you, to be your brother's keeper.